What is up, peeps? We are back on the channel for a giant Call of Duty update, an update they've been teasing since late last year, apparently groundbreaking Call of Duty news, and we're back in the react style. So if you guys want to leave a like or a comment down below, and if you guys like this style, we'll keep on doing it. But this is the groundbreaking Call of Duty update for multiplayer only, as they finally address SBMM, or skill-based matchmaking, in multiplayer for Call of Duty. Something that's been long awaited. I'm still not really sure exactly why we've been waiting for this, and a lot of people very frustrated by it. So let's hop into what is one of the biggest Call of Duty updates that we've seen all year. As they label it, the Call of Duty Matchmaking Intel. It should be something juicy somewhere in here, and to give them a little bit of credit, there are some good details. There really are towards the end, but as a whole, I think it's lacking. It's because people knew a lot of the information. They say today's intel is intended to kick off that dialogue and is a new beginning for what we hope will be an ongoing conversation about matchmaking, sharing our process and learnings with you to answer questions and concerns we've seen within the community. And we can frankly skip the rest of that, as they do jump right into it, saying the matchmaking overview is not just based off skill and performance. When they land us in matches, apparently a variety of factors actually go into that. And at first when I saw this image, I was like, okay, are you gonna tell us maybe some ranking details on exactly what? And they do. They actually order it in terms of how much weight each of these categories has. But it is nice to know that according to Call of Duty, when it comes to skill-based matchmaking, it's not accordingly just based on skill. It's connection, playlist diversity, recent maps and modes, input device, voice chat, time to match, platform, and skill and performance all apparently go into the matchmaking process. They say connection is actually the heaviest weighed factor, which does still make sense, because even within your connection field, your connection group of people that are in that realm of connection that you have, you guys know what I'm trying to say. There are probably still plenty of players to then really fully assess you on a heavier factor that is probably skill. That's just my assumption. Saying connection, as the community will attest, ping is king. Connection is the most critical and heavily weighed factor in the matchmaking process. Time to match. This factor is the second most critical to the matchmaking process. We all want to spend time playing the game rather than waiting for matches. And the following other factors, that group of 4 or 5, they are also still very critical to the process. I think this will probably see a little bit of backlash. People are going to say, okay, of course, connection and time to match are important factors, but the overall thing of skill-based matchmaking is it's based off skill and performance. That's what the heavy base really is going to be. Once you are in the field of players who are connecting around the same time and have around the same ping, skill is going to be the defining factor. Maybe you disagree, maybe you agree, leave a comment down below. Also stating, every time a player begins matchmaking in multiplayer, for example, the process needs to work through all these factors to find other players, all of which are also being analyzed to quickly assemble a lobby that is stable and competitive. And then they just talk about measuring connection. I don't even think we need to go into that. Measuring time to match, it's just I guess one important note here is if the wait time in a lobby is excessively long and players typically recycle the process by actually canceling matchmaking altogether, they do pretty much say that doesn't help you out, by the way. Restarting the search hurts you. So you're supposed to stay in the match. A quick counter argument out there is if you don't like the map or the mode, if you accidentally selected it and you want to cancel it and start again, like a lot of people are willing to wait a bit longer if it's a map that they didn't vote for. So seems like a moot point for me. And then they dive into exactly how they measure skill for matchmaking. While skill is one of the several factors in Call of Duty multiplayer matchmaking, we know the community wants more information about how it fits into the process. Skill is determined based on a player's overall performance, kills, deaths, wins, losses, and more, including mode selection and recent matches as an overall metric across all multiplayer experiences. This is a fluid measurement that's consistently updating and reacting to your gameplay. Skill is not only a factor in matchmaking players against appropriate enemies, but also when finding teammates. Call of Duty has historically considered player performance among other factors as part of our matchmaking process, all of this dating back to Call of Duty 4, 2007. What many of us consider to be closer to the glory days of Call of Duty, you know, back when we actually enjoyed playing this game for like longer than a few weeks. I remember those days. But again, to give them credit, this is where it does get the most interesting. This is what I expected out of it, and what a lot of you guys should probably have expected too, Call of Duty's explanation for implementing skill-based matchmaking. We use player performance to ensure the disparity between the most skilled player in the lobby and the least skilled player in the lobby is not so vast that players feel their match is a waste of time. Our data on player outcome clearly indicates that the inclusion of skill in Call of Duty's multiplayer matchmaking process, as it currently stands, increases the variety of outcomes experienced by players of all skill levels. In other words, all players, regardless of skill, are more likely to experience wins and losses proportionately. So again, it's what people probably should have expected, but they're finally publicly addressing the obvious, saying our data shows that when lower skill players are consistently on the losing end, they are likely to quit matches in progress or stop playing altogether. This has an effect on the player pool. A smaller player pool means wait times for matches increase and connections may not be as strong as they should be. This can compound over time to create a spiral effect. Eventually, when only high skill players remain because low skill players have quit out of frustration, the result is an ecosystem that is worse overall for everyone. So there you have it. That is literally Call of Duty's answer for skill-based matchmaking. They have the data sets. They have ran the data, what's better for their business, and that is keeping players online by any means possible. And if that means skill-based matchmaking, keeping noobs against noobs and high-skilled players against high-skilled players, and thus retaining players for a longer period of time, that is their answer. There are plenty of counterpoints that the community has tried over the years that have not worked out, but at a baseline, that is Call of Duty's answer to SBMM. We know, or I'm speaking for them, they know based off data points that player retention requires SBMM, or that's what they think. And then the community, some part of the community thinks otherwise. I'm in the middle. Like, I'm open to both sides. Very much so. I'm as plain as pudding. What? And then the other important part of this update, I would say, would be the community questions, which, I mean, they are important, but again, they're kind of straightforward answers that people probably should have expected. Does Call of Duty consider player engagement or time played as a factor in matchmaking? We do not consider how often or how much you play to determine matchmaking. Does the Call of Duty matchmaking process impact any in-game elements such as hit reg, player visibility, aim assist, damage, etc.? No, our matchmaking process does not impact gameplay elements. Does spending money on Call of Duty content such as bundles, Battle Pass, or Black Cell change how players are matched? Money spent does not in any way, shape, or form factor into matchmaking. And then does Call of Duty use bots in multiplayer matchmaking? No, they say no. Pretty much this was their refute and answer to all of the conspiracy theorists out there. If you guys have not seen all of these crazy videos where they attest that in Call of Duty, you can impact your skill-based matchmaking by buying certain skins or certain bundles, or that apparently playing a certain amount of time can then impact your skill-based matchmaking. It was a lot of conspiracy theory, tinfoil hat theories, which will always exist for Call of Duty because they can never fully be refuted. And even with Call of Duty saying these things, those same conspiracy channels would say, okay, of course Call of Duty is going to say that. They won't admit to otherwise. But yeah, there are people out there that think that the higher you go into skill-based matchmaking, the higher you go in the rank system, that apparently that will possibly impair or at least impact your level of aim assist, the damage that you can do, your hit reg, all of that stuff. Crazy stuff that I won't dive into now. If you want to believe it, so be it. If you don't want to believe it, so be it. It's not really why I'm here. We're addressing skill-based matchmaking, which is the exact answer everyone expected for Call of Duty. And I just want to ask all of you guys, what did you expect more than this? But let's dive into some community feedback, which is probably about as you also expected. As we as Wildcat, he's always been outspoken around SBMM, and so have many others, saying, I don't know what people expected from this or why we are so adamant to hear about it. You were told, but you already know. They have the data that shows SBMM is best for player retention and keeping people on the game, which makes them the most money, and that is all that matters. Modern SBMM multiplayer Sweatfest gaming experience is never going to change because casual players have infinite options of games to switch to, and hardcore players will continue playing the game they like, even if it continues to shovels literal feces down their throat. I tend to agree with a lot of Wildcats' opinions on these things. And again, like, Call of Duty players aren't going anywhere, and we love to complain, but we still buy the game. And so therefore we feed right into their data set. Like, nothing's going to change, you know? And then a lot of other feedback out there from a lot of people. Legion even saying, I understand protecting players, but it's wild when I play with my IRL friends and they're waited for my lobbies. My 40-year-old brother is playing the Terminator when he plays once a week. I miss when playing with different skill categories of friends was more accessible. Milo saying, you're glad you're talking about SBMM as promised. This is one of the more positive, I would say, criticisms they have faced in the comments here, but just telling us that the data says SBMM is good for low skill players isn't really going to change anyone's minds about it when we all knew that's why it was there in the first place. Kind of a nothing burger article, by the way. And then, of course, the legendary Jev saying, cool blog, I learned so much. And so at the end of all of this, I'm just left like, okay, we got the answer that we expected from Call of Duty, but what else did we expect from Call of Duty? And what are your thoughts on this? Of course, you can leave those down below. I think plenty of people are going to continue to be upset by this, although there are some small reassurances in the articles saying they are going to keep on testing out some data points of maybe having separate modes that don't include SBMM, which I think is a little positive, a little nugget of positive to actually have in this video. And they also have tested this multiple times throughout the past years, apparently, and they've come to the same conclusion every time, which is when players lose too often, they just get off the game. So part of me can't blame them if the business is making them billions of dollars, but part of me still wants to complain because that's what Call of Duty peeps and we do best. You know, we complain and we get to see the conversation that comes of it. Till next time, what do you guys think about this? Are you happy? Are you not so happy? Make sure to leave a like down below if you like this reaction style. I sure really enjoy it, and we'll see you back here sometime soon. Take care.